Hello everyone, today I'll be doing a fundamental analysis video on CWT Limited, and this video will help me in determining the true value of CWT's stock or share price and also its growth, future prospects and the business itself. So let's take a look at CWT Limited, shall we? So this is CWT's logo. So before I move on, let me just give a brief background on the company. So who is CWT and what do they do? As you can see over here, CWT is a leading solutions provider of integrated logistics and supply chain management, and it was founded in 1970 and it was listed 23 years later in 1993 on the Singapore Stock Exchange. So it's a local Singaporean company, and it has a global presence in over 50 countries, including Southeast Asia and also parts of Europe and also in America. And they have a global network connectivity to around 200 direct ports and 1,500 inland destinations in Singapore. And CWT either owns or manages over 12 million square feet of global warehouse space, and they have over 44 years of logistics heritage. So from this you can tell that they are very experienced in what they do, because they're not a young company. They have a huge global presence in over 50 countries, which tells you a lot about CWT. And as you can see, they also serve the spectrum from small establishments to multinational companies, and they're committed to the principles of sustainable development, which I will talk through in the business model later. And the reported revenue in 2013 was 89.1 billion, which is a lot, as you can see over here. So now let's look at CWT fundamental analysis. Let's begin. So what you can see here is just a very simple picture showing a company tree, and we're assuming that this is CWT Limited. And as you can see, there are apples in the trees, and the apples on the trees are the factors that's going to help us in doing our fundamental analysis. So the first one is the profitability factor, which means how well the company is in making money. And the second one is liquidity. Liquidity meaning that how well it can pay its debts, and also solvency. So these are the three main factors that we will look at. So now fundamental analysis points. So this is just a short, it's just a brief chart that I did in helping me to do my fundamental analysis. So the first one, as you can see, is reading financial statements. So reading financial statements I feel is very important because it gives us an idea about how a company is doing, what they do, and where their money goes into or goes out into. And the second one is by analyzing CWT with its close peers, be it international, which means overseas outside of Singapore, or local peers. And the third one is by looking at the share price of the company. Obviously, the more expensive the share price of a company is, it tells you something about it, and also it helps us to determine the true value of the stock by knowing the share price of the company. And the fourth one is to compare CWT with the STI benchmark. STI is the Straits Times Index benchmark. And the fifth one, which I believe is the most important one, is by looking at financial ratios. So financial ratios is a more in-depth analysis of CWT, and it can tell you a lot about CWT Limited and the fundamental analysis behind it. So as mentioned earlier, I'll be talking about CWT business model, and this is just a simple chart that CWT has on their website, and I will talk through each of them. So the first one, they have their underlying outcome, or what they hope to achieve from the business model, is, as you can see, business sustainability and growth. So this is what they look at when they do their service and when they provide their services. So the first one is integrated business, which is done through commodity marketing, engineering services, and financial services, and these all fall under logistics. And value added to that is their competitive strength, which is something that their close peers do not have, and that is integration of strength, and it's through logistics competences and infrastructure together with a global network. So this is something that I find that CWT's local peers don't really have, which is global network. And CWT has a wide range of global network and connections, which makes them stand out from their peers. The third factor is growth strategy. So their growth strategy comes from 4 different points, and they are to strengthen and synergize, capital recycling, grow revenue, and financial prudence, which means that they are very particular about where their money goes into, where their money are spent, and all of that. And all these three factors, integrated business, competitive strength, and with growth strategy, all combined together help in doing one thing, which is to help in the sustainability of CWT and also in the growth plan. So this is just a map of where CWT currently operates, and they have over 50 countries that they do operate in. As you can see over here, the main region where they operate in is Southeast Asia, which means Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore. They also do their businesses in Hong Kong, in Taiwan, and also in Europe, parts of Europe, and such as Germany, and also in parts of Africa and parts of South America, Peru and Chile, and also in Canada and USA. So from this you can depict, or you can see that they have a huge and a wide connection and a wide network of connectivity. So now moving on to CWT's management. So this is the group structure for CWT Limited, and this is a very simple overview of what CWT Limited is. So as you can see, in logistics, they have commodity, freight, which is basically shipping, warehousing, the storage of goods, integrated logistics, contract logistics, and defense services. And each of them has a different management team that operates each one of them. For example, under commodity logistics, they have the CWT Commodities Private Limited and CWT Europe BV, and these are all subsidiaries under each of the different segments and sectors that they do have. So defense services is one of them that they have many, which is CWT Limited, the Aerospace Service, the Force 21 Equipment, Indico Engineers, and Singapore Logistics Private Limited. So let's move on. So under commodity marketing, they have base metals and energy marketing, which these are all the groups that they have acquired and companies that they have acquired. Also financial services, so they have brokerage and financial services and trust and asset management. And last but not least, engineering services, which the main purpose is to design, build and maintain, and also doing property management. So now we look at valuation ratios, which is now we look at profitability ratios, which is operating margin, gross margin, profit, net margin, and return on equity. So high operating margin shows us that CWT is doing well and they are making the most out of their money. So the operating margin here, however, has been decreasing, and the gross margin depends on the industry. A higher gross margin means that they have a good net profit margin. So as you can see from here, has also been decreasing. And also we're looking at the profit margin or net margin. The higher the better. It tells us that CWT is pricing their products correctly, however, again has been decreasing. And last but not least is the return on equity, especially for shareholders are very concerned about this. And it tells us the leverage, revenue, and profits and margins as well. So again, it has been decreasing steadily. So last but not least, we will look at valuation ratios, which basically evaluates more on the stock or the share price of the company. So the PTE or price to earnings tells us about the higher future earnings growth, how it's going. And also price to book is important, especially for retail investors, because it tells them how much money or how much profit they can have from the investment in CWT Limited. And also dividend yield, which is the returns in total investment. So as the price to earning, as you can see, has been increasing, which is a good sign, which means that the share price has been increasing steadily. Price to book ratio has also been on a steady mark, and dividend yield has also been on a steady mark despite the 2012-2016 estimate to decrease to about 1.7%. So we will also look at leverage ratios, which is the first one, quick ratio, taken by current assets minus inventory divided by current liabilities, and it tells us CWT's ability to meet short-term obligations with its most liquid assets. And as you can see, it's from 1.6, 0.9, 0.6, 0.6, and it's on the verge of being more than 2, which isn't good. And then let's look at current ratio, which is from 1.8, 1.2 all the way to 1.1. So current ratio is taken by current assets divided by current liabilities, and it tells us CWT's short-term liabilities and how it pays them from short-term asset. And less is not good, and as you can see, it's decreasing, which is not a good sign. So CWT, the main service is Integrated Supply Chain Management, and these are the range of services that they do. And as you can see on my left is the logistics facility in Dubai, and they have the CWT commodities, and CWT is also listed on STI, or Straits Times Index, which is a benchmark for the stock exchange market in Singapore. And this is CWT's motto, which is Destination Differs, Globelink Delivers. And the sector that they specialize in. And this is the factory in Singapore, in Tanjung Penjuru. And these are CWT local peers, followed by their international peers, and CWT on Bloomberg.com. And the summary of their financial year in 2013, and some of the fundamental analysis elements. So you have earnings, profit margins, price to earnings, price to book, and return on equity. And the three segments: financial stability ratios, performance indicator, and valuation parameters. So that is it for my CWT fundamental analysis video, and thank you for watching.